Hey guys, Crypto here with another video. This is going to be, I think, a 4-parter, maybe a 5-parter. And I just want to go really in depth into the whole Rey versus Luke thing. And you still see on social media people saying that Rey went through the same training, or Rey, is no different than Luke in terms of her abilities, and that means she's not a Mary Sue because Luke did this and she did this, but I've never seen anybody really break it down and get a deep dive going. And so I'm going to deal with specific issues each video, go to the footage, go to what we know, go to the timeline, and really break it down to give us a very clear and concise answer. Is this person a Mary Sue? And if she is Luke, whatever the equivalent is, what's it called? A Barry? I can't remember. Barry Sue or whatever. Jerry Do. Anyways, doesn't matter. Or is it that, they did have differences and things did come easier for her and not him. And I think when you really look at the footage, you get a very clear answer. So the first topic we're going to talk about is how they both learned about the Force, which is, of course, very important because as you learn about it, that's part of your growth process. If you don't have knowledge of it, then you don't have knowledge of it. So anyways, let's get into this and we'll talk about it.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
Yes. I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
I wish I'd known him.
He was the best star pilot in the galaxy. And a cunning warrior. I understand you've become quite a good pilot yourself.
Just thought I'd mention it's interesting that they start very early on in establishing his ability to pilot. Unlike somebody else we know.
I will never train another generation of Jedi. I came to this island to die. It's time for the Jedi to end.
And so here you have the complete opposite, where Obi-Wan is trying to essentially recruit Luke, and Luke now is essentially rejecting Rey, and in the end, Rey ultimately tries to recruit Luke. It's the total most weird opposite thing ever. It makes no sense.
I have something here for you. Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough, but your uncle wouldn't allow it. He feared you might follow old Obi-Wan on some damn fool idealistic crusade like your father did.
So what's really cool here is that you're not only as the audience getting the background, but Luke is getting the background of the family lineage, the family ties, and an actual object to relate that, which is pretty cool. And it sort of starts the ball rolling, gets the mind rolling as to what were the Jedi really about. Well, he now gets to understand that they had a weapon. And that this was a very important weapon for them to use. It was just a weapon. It wasn't some crazy Force thing. It was a weapon. And that immediately starts informing his idea of what the Jedi are. And this is happening very, very early on in the original Star Wars.
What is it?
Your father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Not as clumsy or random as a blaster. An elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
Lesson 2. Now that they're extinct, the Jedi are romanticized, deified. But if you strip away the myth and look at their deeds, the legacy of the Jedi is failure. Hypocrisy, hubris.
So what's interesting here that you start to see is that Rey is essentially going to have to train herself. So Obi-Wan is talking about the history of the Jedi and the good things they did and their purpose. And here you have Luke teaching Rey that they're garbage and they never did anything good and they're gigantic failures, which of course doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If they were 1,000 generations of peace, they did a pretty good job just because they failed with one thing. But this is what Rey's being taught. So how would Rey view the Jedi positively if this is how she's being taught about the Jedi? right?
For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic. Before the Dark Times. Before the Empire.
That's not true.
At the height of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create the Empire, and wipe them out. It was a Jedi Master who was responsible for the training and creation of Darth Vader.
And a Jedi who saved him.
So basically, Rey is teaching Luke about what the Jedi are. God knows where she came to these conclusions, because I don't know. I don't know where she got this information. And then keep in mind, too, this is also the second film, so we all know she's basically just been a Jedi since she set foot in the Millennium Falcon, I guess, or since she got captured by Kylo at Maz's castle. From that moment on, she was basically a Jedi, right? That's mind trick starts, all that stuff. So there really was no learning about what the Force was. And then when she finally does learn about what the Force is, or what the Jedi are about, or all this stuff that is sort of the precursor to actually training, she's the one correcting the Jedi about it. It just doesn't make sense.
How did my father die?
A young Jedi named Darth Vader helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights. He betrayed and murdered your father.
Yes, the most hated man in the galaxy, but you saw there was conflict inside him. You believed that he wasn't gone, that he could be turned.
And I became a legend.
Like, why is Luke so negative about everything? He's supposed to... So again, it goes back to it. She doesn't even really learn about the Force from anybody, except for herself. There is that little scene on the rock where he kind of explains to her a little bit about the Force and how it works within nature and all of us and blah, 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 blah. But other than that, and even by then, you're talking about, like, I don't know, a third of the way through The Last Jedi. Like, she already pretty much knows everything by then anyway. And then on top of it, we're like 6 days into her, quote, Jedi-ness since Kylo took her. So this is insane. So she's not only training herself, she's almost sort of retraining Luke, which is such a bizarre and weird twist, even though it's not really a twist. It's almost like a demeaning, weird rethinking of how Jedi train and how they learn about the Force.
The Force?
It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
I need someone to show me my place in all this. And you didn't fail Kylo. Kylo failed you. I won't.
So, like, while Luke's learning about what the actual Force is and why it's important, Rey is literally telling Luke that what he did was good and that he saved the galaxy by understanding that he could turn Darth Vader. Like, this isn't training, this isn't even like the precursor to training, learning about the Force. This is literally her just knowing stuff and Luke basically just being there, I guess. That's about all it is.
You must learn the ways of the Force if you're to come with me to Alderaan.
Alderaan? I'm not going to Alderaan. I've got to get home. It's late. I'm in for it as it is.
I need your help, Luke. She needs your help. I'm getting too old for this sort of thing.
It's a very bizarre, weird thing that's going on here, because on the one hand you have Luke is needing to be convinced that he should go down this path, and he's got some reluctancy, and Obi-Wan's trying to convince him. In Luke's case, it's the opposite. He's telling her not to. So it's a complete opposite approach, but one would lead to somebody learning and understanding the Force if they stuck with it, and the other one, they just somehow know without any kind of mentoring or anything. And it's just interesting to see the clips side by side, to see just how juxtaposed and how nonsensical that Rey's arc was in terms of understanding the Force. I'm not saying it had to be exactly the same as Luke's, but you still needed to be mentored by somebody. You can't have the mentor being the opposition if you're going to end up being in a certain place, right? It doesn't make sense. And then this all culminates in Rey going having no mentor, right? She has to mentor herself. So that she goes down the hole and has a dark side kind of weird quasi thing going on. And then at the end of it says this.
I thought I'd find answers here. I was wrong. I'd never felt so alone.
So then you have to ask yourself, so what's the motivation? Why was she so motivated to even care about this stuff? It just doesn't add up. Like, she could have, for all intents and purposes, based on what Luke was saying, why didn't she just walk away? What are you doing this for? It's almost like she knows she's just eventually going to be more powerful or whatever, or she's just going to be the one without any real reason to. It's just another really badly done silliness. And again, this is the second movie.
Is it true? Did you try to murder him?
Leave this island now!
Stop!
In fact, it gets so stupid that Rey actually has the gall to attack Luke and start going after him in this way to sort of get back at him for what she thinks he did to Ben, which is just crazy. So she's believing Ben for who knows what reason.
You failed him by thinking his choice was made. It wasn't. If he returned from the dark side, that could shift the tide. This could be how we win.
This is not going to go the way you think.
You see what I'm saying? She just knows that she's the best. For reasons no one knows.
It is. Just now, when we touched hands, I saw his future. If I go to him, Ben Solo will turn.
Rey, don't do this.
And it's crazy, the confidence, too, because when Luke went and was going to try and turn his father, it's not like he was, like, uber confident. He just was like, I'm going to either do this or I'm going to die. So, let's see what happens. It was a suicide mission, essentially. But she's just so sure of herself with no training, no mentor. She's against her own mentor. Total opposite of any other narrative. Forget Jedi's, anything that would make any sense. It's just, how do you automatically just have that kind of confidence, have that kind of knowledge, all that stuff without anyone ever telling you really anything?
Then he's our last hope.
First of all, it's so insane, right? Because it's like Luke is rejecting dealing with the Ben issue, forcing her to deal with the Ben issue. But then at the same time, she says he's their last hope. But in the end, she's the last hope. So the whole thing is so convoluted. But at the end of the day, she's mentoring Luke. And in any scenario, in anything in life, that would make absolutely no sense. And in fact, in Luke's case, you talk about 4 years later in Return of the Jedi, he's still being mentored. She never is mentored at any time by anybody for any moment at all.
I've come back to complete the training.
No more training do you require. Already know you. That which you need.
And so you see here, Yoda's acknowledging there's a certain degree of learning and training on the job. It's not like he's been to Dagobah for the last 3 years between Empire and Jedi, although it's possible he has been there at some point. In fact, it's probable. But there is a certain degree of things you learn along the way and a certain amount of training you do outside of the mentorship side of it. But you can't start there. That's the big issue. This is years after he's been involved in the training and been in contact with Jedi, Force ghosts, everything else, relationships, all those things. So yes, he does do some stuff on his own, but she, again, from the very beginning, it's only on her own, and there's no one helping her, which makes her character a Mary Sue, but it also makes her not interesting. It also flies in the face of sort of basic apprentice master lore in essentially anything you can find.
You must confront Vader. Then, only then, a Jedi will you be.
Again, 4 years later, and he's still learning and being told what it's going to take the next step to become the man he's supposed to be, the Jedi he's supposed to be, which falls in line with the prequels as well, which, you know, in that era, of course, they had rankings and all these guys around, but you still needed to, you know, move up slowly through the rungs of the ladder, we'll say. You didn't just be what you are and that's it. Oh yeah, that's me.
Remember, a Jedi strength flows from the Force. But beware. Anger, fear, aggression. The dark side are they.
And then, I guess Rey just teaches herself with the books. So any old schmo could get their hands on the Jedi texts and just teach themselves, I guess. I guess that's how she learned healing. Luke didn't bother to do that, but nobody else did. She did. Anyways, guys, so this is part one. It's going to slowly, gradually build here, but I just want to deal with sort of the introduction of what the Force is, what the Jedi are, into the psyche, the mindset, the life of a Padawan, essentially, was what Rey should have been viewed as, just like Luke was. But unfortunately, that's not what we get. And we get this totally weird, buck the system, silly rendition of the growth of a Jedi. And it's boring and it sucks. And it's the complete opposite of what Luke went through. Again, it doesn't have to be all the same. But to make it make sense, some things need to be similar or the same. Or it just doesn't make any sense and it's stupid. Which it is. Anyways, guys, that's part one. Let me know in the comment section what you think. If you like this content, please like, subscribe. It always helps the channel. Feel free to check out anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a very good day.